In 1912, the state of West Virginia adopted a state prohibition amendment. Now, the year before, though, the sale of liquor led to a tragedy in a very well-known West Virginia family. Today, we tell that story. Hello, folks. I'm Steve Gilley, along with Rod Mullins, and this is Stories, a History of Appalachia.
Well, Steve, I think a lot of our viewers and also listeners would probably recognize, Prohibition went on during the 1920s, but a little bit early for the state of West Virginia. But I don't know this story that we're getting ready to talk about, the backstory, per se, of the sale of liquor leading to a tragedy amongst a very well-known West Virginia family. Please tell.
Well, it's a very famous story involving a very famous feud family.
Yes, I think so.
All right. Well, prior to the passage of Prohibition in West Virginia, the sale of whiskey and other hard liquors was a very, very lucrative business. It was nothing for a bar to take in upwards of $3,000 on miners' paydays at most establishments. And it was this kind of money that attracted the Hatfield family. Yeah, Rod, those Hatfields of feud fame.
Okay.
In 1911, Detroit, known as Troy Hatfield, 40, and his brother Elias, 36, were in Fayette County running a popular saloon in a coal town named Boomer. Helping them run the place were their younger brothers, Joe and Tennis. Times were good, but there was trouble brewing on the horizon.
The large sums of money involved in the saloon business invited competition, and that competition was fierce. Just a few miles from the Hatfield establishment was the Cannleton Saloon. Troy and Elias had made an agreement with Carl Hansen, owner of the Cannleton Saloon, not to encroach on each other's territory, which they all carefully staked out so as to avoid trouble. Now, how could you do this, you might ask? Well, at this time, it was pretty common for folks to order beer and liquor for home delivery. So the two saloons agreed not to take orders from each other's territory, as they defined it. And, there for a while, all was fine, until an Italian immigrant named Octavio Jerome stepped into the picture.
Well, Rod, Mr. Jerome worked for the Cannleton Saloon, taking orders for delivery from among the Italian immigrants who had been brought over to West Virginia to work in the coal mines. He also had been called upon by the local authorities to serve as an interpreter for the Italian workers who ran afoul of the law. Octavio was generally well-liked in the area by both the Italian community and by those born in Fayette County. Mr. Jerome, though, didn't give a damn about any agreement his boss made with the Hatfield family, nor did he care one bit about the family's reputation in West Virginia. He wanted to make sales, because when he made a sale, he made some money. Mm-hmm. He also wanted to continue to serve his fellow Italian immigrants in the area, many of whom had developed a close relationship with him. So he continued to encroach on the Hatfield saloon delivery business.
Well, needless to say, this didn't sit very well with Troy and Elias. They warned Octavio, and I guess none too roundabout terms, to stop selling in their territory, but he continued to thumb his nose at them. Well, several times during this, that's what led to what was referred to in the papers at the time as a thrashing, which would, or I should say, should have ended the matter. Octavio Jerome, though, was a stubborn man. He continued to solicit business from whomever he pleased, Hatfield or no Hatfield. This affront to Troy and Elias' honor, not to mention the loss of business, couldn't go unpunished. No, by all means, no. And the two men made their plans to get rid of Octavio and his poaching once and for all. On October 17, 1911, Octavio made plans to go to Boomer by train to meet a wagon loaded with beer and liquor that had started from Cannleton with the intent to sell those goods to Italian workers there in Boomer. Now, Elias, he found out about the plan, and with Troy, he decided to go and see Jerome about the matter. On the way, they ran into the wagon and, persuaded, let's say, the driver to turn around. They then found out that Octavio Jerome was in a residence in Harwood, just outside Boomer, so they set out to go take care of him.
Well, the brothers went to the house in Harwood and knocked on the door. The owner, a Mr. Angeline, also an Italian immigrant, shook hands with the men, who asked if Octavio Jerome was there. Well, Angeline said yes, he was there, and told the Hatfield brothers he was in a back room. Elias walked right in, where he was immediately gunned down by Octavio, who fired 3 shots at him. Troy, right behind his brother, simply stepped over Elias, guns drawn, and was hit by 3 more shots from Octavio Jerome, who then jumped out the back window and fled, with the wounded Troy in hot pursuit. As Troy ran, he faltered and soon dropped to the ground. Troy Hatfield, though, was a crack shot, known in those parts as the best marksman in the country. And despite being shot in the arm, Troy took careful aim at Octavio Jerome and shot him in the back of the head as he was fleeing the scene. The bullet came out through Octavio's left eye and killed him instantly. He shot Jerome 3 more times for good measure.
Yeah, wanted to make sure he was taken care of and he was good and dead, I guess is what he wanted to do. Well, help was quickly summoned, but Elias died before help could arrive. Troy managed to live long enough for his brother Joe to arrive. He told Joe that no one but Octavio, Elias, and himself were involved in what happened, and that it was his desire that no further trouble be raised about what happened. Soon, a sheriff's deputy arrived and placed Mr. Angeline under arrest, but Troy told the lawman that Angeline had nothing to do with what happened, and he was released. The brothers' casket, covered in floral arrangements, were taken from the Davis Undertaking Company and placed on a train to travel to Huntington before going home to the Hatfield family cemetery. There they were placed in the same grave. 71-year-old Devil Anse Hatfield and his 60-year-old wife, Levisa, mourned the deaths of their sons, their first deaths in their immediate family after all of the years of fighting and bloodshed with the McCoy family. Anse was later laid to rest next to his sons, and later so would Levisa.
There you go. That's one of the major Hatfield-McCoy stories that's out there.
Wow.
The death really affected him. I think right about that time, actually, he was baptized by Uncle Dyke Garrett. In fact, all these sons went with him. They all got baptized down there at Main Island Creek back in 1911. But this whole incident just really tore him all to pieces, and he pretty much gave up his ways and just settled down and became a farmer for the rest of his life.
You know, I can see this changing him too, because how many years were we kind of in a lull that nothing had taken place between the Hatfields and McCoys? What, 20 years or something like that? Maybe 10, 20 years or something?
So at least 10 years.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a big surprise. Something like this kind of springs on you. But it was a setup all along. I mean, this whole thing, you can just hear it from the story of Octavio lying in wait. He knew full well what the brothers were going to do. Somebody somewhere had let him know, or at least intuition had helped him to know, that that's what the boys were going to do to him. And he met them almost immediately with those gunshots. And, wow, that's just something like I would see out of a, I don't know, more frontier version of The Godfather, I would say. Just somebody going and laying somebody out like that.
Well, he certainly wasn't afraid of them.
No.
Yeah. And that's the story of the death of Troy and Elias Hatfield in a dispute over beer and liquor sales. Another story that makes up the history of this place we call home, Appalachia. Thanks for watching. Be sure to go down below, click that subscribe button, and give us a big thumbs up, too, if you don't mind. Till next we meet, y'all take care. So long, everybody.
So long.